On Christmas Eve, while the city shimmered with lights and laughter, a young woman named Elena stood alone at a freezing bus stop, holding the last $10 she had in the world. She didn't know how she would make it through the night, but she did know one thing. If she didn't get on that bus, everything she'd been fighting for would fall apart. So she gave away her last bill, choosing hope over despair. But just when she thought life had finally taken everything from her, a black limousine rolled up beside her, its tinted window lowering slowly, and what waited inside would change her life forever. This is a story of faith, of sacrifice, and of a Christmas miracle no one could have predicted. The last $10. Elena had never imagined Christmas Eve could feel so cold. Not the weather, though her fingers were stiff from gripping the thin sleeves of her worn-out coat, but the quiet ache of knowing she had no place left to go. She pressed her last $10 bill between her hands, warming it like it was more than money, like it was her last lifeline. The streets around her sparkled with decorations. Children ran past her with candy canes, bundled couples laughed, and carolers sang like the world was made of joy. But Elena felt invisible, just another shadow blending into the evening. 2 months ago, she had a job, an apartment, and a small circle of friends who would occasionally gather for late-night chai and cheap pizza. But then her company downsized, and she was among the first to go. The bills piled up, the savings disappeared, and eventually, the landlord gave her a notice she wished she could tear in half and pretend wasn't real. She still remembered packing the last of her belongings into a single duffel bag, walking out of the apartment she had once called home, and promising herself she wouldn't give up. She had been strong then. She wasn't sure she could say the same now. Tonight, she needed to reach the shelter on the other side of the city, the only place that still had room for one more. The bus fare was exactly $10. That was all she had. She sighed, staring at the glowing holiday advertisements around her, each one reminding her of everything she didn't have: warmth, family, celebration. A future that didn't feel like a storm as the bus approached. She stepped forward, feeling her throat tighten. Her heart whispered something: "Don't give it up. You won't have anything left." But her mind pushed forward: "You need to survive the night." She climbed the steps, handed the driver her last bill, and received a small nod that felt heavier than it should. She walked to a seat by the window, hugging her bag to her chest. As the bus rolled through the city, Elena watched sparkling households pass by, families coming together with gifts in their hands, grandparents opening their doors with wide smiles, children bouncing with excitement. A part of her wondered what Christmas felt like for people who weren't fighting to stay afloat. But she shook the thought away. Wishing for things she couldn't have only made the world feel colder. Halfway through the ride, the bus suddenly jolted to a stop. The driver sighed, made a quick announcement, and Elena felt her stomach drop. The bus had broken down. It wouldn't continue. Passengers groaned and stepped out into the night, frustrated about delayed plans. But Elena stepped off with a quiet dread, because she didn't have another $10 to get on another bus. She didn't have anything at all. As the bus drove away, empty and out of service, Elena stood on the sidewalk, shivering under the glowing streetlight, trying not to cry. Her last $10 were gone, and so was her chance to reach the shelter. Snow began to fall gently, dusting her hair, her shoulders, her trembling hands. In the distance, she heard a choir singing Silent Night, soft, peaceful, almost mocking. Her breath fogged in front of her. She whispered to herself, "I'll figure something out. I always do." But even she didn't believe it. That was when she heard it. A low, smooth engine humming closer. She turned her head. A long black limousine slowed beside her, polished like a mirror reflecting the Christmas lights. The rear window began to lower. Elena's heart froze mid-beat, unsure whether she should run, call for help, or simply stand still. She had no idea that this moment, this one impossible moment, would become the turning point of her life. And that miracle was waiting just behind the glass. The limousine miracle. The window rolled down completely, revealing a man in his late 60s, dressed in a perfectly tailored gray suit with a scarf wrapped neatly around his neck. His hair was silver, his expression calm but curious. He looked at Elena for a moment, Not with suspicion, not with judgment, but with the kind of quiet concern that people rarely offer to strangers. "You look like you could use a ride," he said gently, his voice warm and steady. Elena blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. I'm fine," she stammered, though her voice shook from the cold. "Really? I'm just trying to get to the shelter." The man's eyebrows lifted slightly. "The St. Miriam shelter? That's nearly 7 miles from here." She looked down at her shoes, soaked from the melting snow. "Yeah, I know." He nodded, then opened the limousine door. Warm air flooded out like a soft embrace. "Please, it's Christmas Eve. Let me take you."
Elena hesitated.
Her instincts screamed for caution. Life had taught her to question kindness, because kindness rarely came without a price. But something about the man felt different. Maybe it was the sincerity in his eyes. Maybe it was the way he didn't push her. Or maybe it was because she had nothing left to lose. She took a step forward. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "Absolutely." She climbed inside, sinking into the soft leather seats that felt like clouds compared to the cold sidewalk. The driver nodded politely from the front, and the man closed the door before sitting beside her. The warmth made her shiver harder for a moment as her body adjusted. "I'm Thomas," he said with a smile. "And you?" "Elena," she replied quietly. As the limousine pulled into the street, Thomas glanced at her bag. "Rough night." She laughed softly, a sound that felt brittle. "Rough few months." He didn't pry. He didn't push. He simply let her talk. And for the first time in weeks, Elena opened up. About her job loss, her eviction, her attempts to stay strong, her fear that she had failed herself. The more she spoke, the more she realized how heavy the burden had been on her shoulders. Thomas listened carefully, nodding with empathy. When she finally fell silent, he said, "Elena, may I tell you something? Not long ago, I was in your position." She blinked. "Him? In her position?" He continued, 35 years ago, I lost everything. My business collapsed, my family home went into foreclosure, and I spent Christmas Eve alone in a diner with exactly $5 in my pocket. A stranger helped me that night. He bought me dinner, gave me warm clothes, and told me something I never forgot. When you stand again someday, pass this kindness forward. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. Thomas looked at her with gentle conviction. I promised him I would, and tonight, I think I'm meant to keep that promise. The limousine slowed, not at the shelter, but in front of a modest 5-story building glowing with soft golden lights. Elena looked at him in confusion. Why are we here? Thomas smiled. Because this is one of the apartment buildings I own. And starting tomorrow morning, if you're willing, there's a job waiting for you in my administrative office. Nothing complicated, just honest work. And until you get back on your feet, you'll stay here, rent-free. Elena stared at him, speechless. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel the pulse in her throat. I don't understand. Why me? Because, Thomas said softly, someone once helped me when I had nothing, and he didn't choose me because I was special. He chose me because he believed anyone can rise again when given a chance. Elena covered her face with trembling hands as tears streamed down. Not tears of sadness, tears of disbelief, relief, hope. It felt like her heart had been cracked open and filled with light she had forgotten how to feel. Thomas rested a comforting hand on her shoulder. Merry Christmas, Elena, she whispered, voice unsteady. This is a miracle. He nodded gently. Miracles happen every day. Sometimes we just need to run out of our last $10 to find them. No act of kindness is ever wasted. When you choose hope even in your darkest moment, life finds a way to return that kindness when you least expect it. Or a slightly longer version if you want. Sometimes you must lose your last dollar to discover your biggest blessing. When you stay kind, stay patient, and keep believing, miracles find their way to people with brave hearts.